how do I come to the conclusion that the arguments that come from this emerging right wing are full of shit and that they are not here to change anything? A logical answer would be just study your history and see whenever these movements, or in what conditions have these movements appeared and who financed them, and maybe you have a clearer picture. But just working this thought out of logic, because these are new times, society has changed a lot. So, but I think the most flawed argument that they put out, and it's at the core of their argumentation, of the points that they make, and which for me it's very strange. At least I feel this in the European context. I don't know how is it in the US. But in the European context, the thing is that the backbone of their arguments is that we have been living under socialism. It is so in Portugal, it is so in Spain. I haven't read other texts, but by the behavior and whenever this right wing gets together, the parties that belong to the same family, I can see that the script is very similar, right? And the joke, because it is a joke, what do they use often to justify this claim? They use the excuse that it is socialism because the party in charge of the country, in the government, it has socialist in the name. Like, for example, in the case of Portugal, and also in the case of Spain, and I think in the case of France as well. And therefore, if the Socialist Party has been in power, it means that we have been living under a socialist government. And this is like immediately the biggest flaw on their argument, because, as you all know, one must be very ignorant, and this does not, I do not intend to be offending anyone, but I'm stating a fact. One has to be very ignorant to make this basic association between a name of a party and the political measures that certain government takes in conducting the policy of a given country, right? So, and if you analyze the policy, for example, of all the countries within the European Union, what you see is that deregulation of the markets, privatization of strategic public sectors, deregulation of labor rules and labor protection, destruction of the union and the union power and of labor power. So, and I ask you now, a rhetorical question, of course, what is the policy, the general policy that has these characteristics? Arguing free market has a god? It's neoliberalism. I've mentioned this before. And I'm sure some of you know, because it's very obvious. I mean, if you look at all the banking system, the financing of the economy, the way big corporations get away with their bullshit, leaving the the shortcomings, I forgot the word, which is opposed of profits. I forgot the word. Night shift screws my head completely. Anyway, when the company goes bankrupt, right? And then the debts, the debt that the company leaves when they go bankrupt. The debt crisis, takeover of the banks, saving the banks, these kind of things. So normally this system does this. They have these huge companies collecting all the wealth and leaving the bankruptcy normally they nationalize the bankruptcy and they privatize the wealth. So, and this is the biggest flaw on this right-wing arguments. But then you have a component on the left which, in my opinion, plays straightforward into the hands of this kind of propaganda, validating this kind of propaganda, which is the kind of left that it's called the left wing in the United States. It's a very confusing concept, because then the right wing, appealing to the most ignorant or distracted people, they generalize. They say the left wants this, the left does that, and so on and so on. But the kind of left I'm referring to is also known as the woke, the woke left. The ones that cry about anything or everything. They do make some valid points. I'm not saying that they just exist to tell bullshit. That this is not. Don't take me wrong. They do make some valid points. The thing is not the points that they make, because also the right wing, the populist right wing, also make valid points. It's the way they use these points for their political struggle. It's their goals. And in this case, for example, in the case of the left, they exaggerate the weight of many of their arguments in detriment of things that I think that are most important for a balanced society and a fair society. Let me give you an example. For example, trans rights or gay people's rights. It's not, of course they are important, but they often occupy the media space with only this discussion, and they fail to promote workers' rights, human rights in general. They fail to promote wealth distribution. You see, because wealth distribution, which is not merely handing over money, is just sharing the cake that everyone produces more evenly, more fairly. This is what it means. It gets left behind, and people just fight each other over because they want to. The right-wing crazies, they say they want to indoctrinate all children, make everyone gay, whatever. I'm a father of two kids. Look, and I go to their school. I talk to the teacher. None of this is going on. And I of course, I'm Portuguese. I don't know what's going on in other schools, in many other places, other countries. But the same arguments, the same rhetoric is used here by this kind of groups. So, and then they share these videos, sketchy videos, on the webs of people saying things, and I don't know, a big web of nonsense. And then you get the right wing being validated for this kind of overreaction by the left. I hope I've expressed myself correctly, because I'm not undervaluing the rights of any kind of human being, right? But I think most of these problems would be solved when families can afford a house, when families and individuals can afford, every kind of family. I mean, I'm not going for the, traditional families are not. I have a traditional, what they call a traditional family, right? But if other people want to make other choices, it's fine with me. It's fine with me. You see, I think there's nothing to argue about in here. And so a lot of time and a lot of media time it's occupied with this arguing, constant hissing, and it's like dogs barking at each other when they are both in a chain. You know, this kind of always. And the main problems, which is the corporate takeover of the fucking society and all the wealth and living shit for the rest of us, goes on. It's simple as this. And so they want to start the house by the roof. I don't know if the left wings are sponsored by the same guys, but I know the right wing, this kind of right wings that I just mentioned, is sponsored by some sketchy people. Normally they appear as groups who claim themselves to be anti-system, like something completely different, something new, something that you can trust. All the politicians are shit. We are the new breath of politics. We are the new oxygen for society. Normally they claim everything, all the other doctrines, communism, social, it's all old ideas. They don't work anymore. And then they give stupid examples to illustrate that. Very stupid examples. Complete absence of any knowledge of history. Anyway, but they come with this, and then this would be very easy to counterattack, to counter, right? Normally very basic and ignorant arguments. But then along comes this left, which maybe I can speculate. This is my conspiracy theory moment. I start to believe that they're also funded by the same people. You know, you have to. It's like you have the millionaires funding both teams, so the circus attracts more crowd. Opinions get divided. Everyone is fighting each other over nothing, while the robber gets away with the big bag. And and normally, and this is I've begun this video by stating the core argument of the right, which is a very stupid one. See, this is it's only smoke. There is nothing solid in this new movement. Nothing solid. It's all fabricated. They have no arguments. They have no valid arguments. They have to invent. They have to create ghosts. They had to go back and revive the speech, the rhetoric, the same words, the same slogans of the Cold War. Communism is a menace. This in Portugal was unbelievable 20 years ago, especially because the Communist Party in Portugal had a huge role in funding the democracy. Not founding the democracy. They are founders of the democracy in Portugal. Very law-abiding group. And they come along and using people's ignorance to their advantage. Oh, communists kill people left and right, and these ideas, old ideas, and this kind of nonsense. They haven't read any Marx, any Engels, or anything, not even the Communist Manifesto. And suddenly you have thousands of morons propagating these words, because they use the language from the pubs and cafes, language that some tired worker uses with a lot of slang and uses after a very tiring day of work when he's going for a beer at the cafe. Just talks some shit out and lets it out for the pressure, the steam of the day. And they use this, they create this environment, this same environment conversation in their political speech, therefore catching a lot of attention. Forgetting, of course, people forget that when you're talking about subjects like, you know, for example, a country's management, where you have a lot of areas of knowledge, expertise, from science to economics, education, whatever, urban management, whatever, a lot of things, laws. It is complex. It is a complex discussion. I am aware that the discussion should be facilitated or spoken in such way that everyone catches it, but it has to be serious. It cannot be a circus, right? A soap opera, a cheap soap opera, and everyone accusing, you know, low blows everywhere. And I think this right wing, it's not only sponsored by millionaires, because that's actually a fact. It's the same kind that rules the media, and it's the same kind that rules the European Union. They do have the candidate of the Portuguese Communist Party, number one on the list to the European Parliament, has said this sentence that the European leadership has a very healthy relationship with this extreme right wing. And that's something to be suspicious of, you know. They're often smeared as extremists, that sometimes appears on the media, but in general, if you look to the general trend, they are being promoted. Okay, that's my thought of the evening before going to that hell of a night shift. I hope I see you on the next one.